I'm here in beautiful Taylor Falls, Minnesota, here to do a little demonstration on ISO. So ISO is the setting on the camera that allows you to change how much light the camera soaks in on its sensor. So after the light comes through the aperture and then passes through the shutter while we're taking our pictures, we're able to change how the light is recorded on the sensor based on the ISO that we use. So I'm only going to change the ISO right now, and I want you to notice what happens. I'm going higher and higher, and the picture's getting brighter, right? All the way to not even being there. If I go the other way, the picture's going to get darker. So the lower the number, the less light you get in with ISO. So right around here looks to be a pretty good amount of light for this type of picture. So I'll take one at that. Right, but if I change the amount of light that I'm pointing towards, I'm going to be using a different type of ISO. For example, if I want to get up towards that sky to be able to see the sky, I'm taking in too much light. So if I lower my ISO and then maybe adjust some of my other settings, all of a sudden I begin to see the sky. Okay? So if I were to be using a really high ISO when I've got a lot of light, I wouldn't be able to see the sky. Right? I might only see the ground. Okay? So that's the big thing that's going to be happening with ISO. Now, the other side effect, though, of ISO is that it has to do with the quality of the picture. So if you keep the ISO low, you're going to be taking pictures with the best quality that the camera can offer. Okay, so the lower the better for image quality. Okay? The thing that you're going to notice once you start raising the ISO up is that you're going to begin to have something called digital noise appear in the picture. That shows up like miscoloration or discoloration that happens as little pixels change their colors. So the higher the ISO, the more digital noise that you'll see. So I'm going to take a picture at the highest ISO possible here and really change my other settings to make that work here. Okay, so I can get up to 51,200 ISO. I'll take a shot at that, and then I'm going to lower the ISO as low as I can, and we'll be able to compare the pictures. Okay, so lower down the shutter, lower down the aperture, take another picture here. So here's a close-up view of the highest ISO. As we get closer and closer, especially if you notice the kind of the midtones in the shadows area, you're going to see that digital noise pop up. Here's the lower ISO, and we'll zoom in and be able to see the lower ISO has a much higher quality. You don't see that digital noise. All right, so in summary, ISO might be the first thing that you decide on when you're choosing your settings to use on the camera. If you're outside in a bright amount of light, you're probably going to go with the lowest ISO possible. As you start to go into darker areas or the light starts to fade away, if you're taking pictures, right as the light comes up or the sun's going down, you may have to choose to do a higher ISO. Then based on that, you decide your other two settings, shutter speed and aperture, to get a photo with the type of effect that you want. Again, ISO might be the thing that you end up changing the most as you're kind of changing the lighting situation for your pictures. On the screen here, you're going to see a comparison zoomed in on a picture showing the different effects of ISO on digital noise. The lower image is just smooth, you don't see any discoloration, but then as you get to the higher ISOs on this image, you start to see that digital noise pop up.